Live from the Washington, D.C. area, all empowered citizens need to know about intelligent use of resources, smart governance, inclusive communities, smart industry, and healthy, thriving urbanization. This is Smart Sustainability, the TV talk about shaping a sustainable future in the digital age with Nicolette DeVidar. The world is changing. Almost everyone on the planet agrees with that. The question is, into what? What exactly are we morphing into? Are we going to reset societies around the world in just a slightly repackaged form, such as the Great Reset spearheaded by the Davos Economic Forum suggests? Or are we going to morph into something bigger and perhaps better? Something that's closer, more in tune with who we really are as humans? And if yes, what could that look like? Our topic tonight. Good evening, I'm Nicolette DeVidar. Thanks for being with us. And a warm welcome also to all of you who are following us online. Change is constant. It's one of the few things that is constant on planet Earth. Yet, the changes we've been witnessing in the last year alone blow everything out of proportion. More than at any point in recent history do we have a chance to rewrite how we want to live, work, and exist going forward, who we are as humans. Why? Because change is happening on all levels at once, forcing us to look into all aspects. We increasingly see injustices coming to the surface. We see more and more how we're wasting precious resources. We're encountering more and more that our neighbors and people around us are actually more like us than not. We're seeing a lot of flaws in systems and structures we've put in place everywhere around the globe and where we've violated nature. So many people we've talked to feel intuitively that if you're really honest with yourself, there's something inside of you that's been telling you that the way we live our lives is not really in alignment with your soul. So up to this point, most of us put it aside, saying that the world is not perfect. Thus, we've just adjusted and accepted. But after a year of shutdowns, isolation, and closings, that's no longer true. People aren't willing anymore to let things continue the way they have and just look away. We hear more voices. We hear a stronger cry for authenticity and honesty, and feel a deeper urge to live truer to ourselves. So with all that's going on, are we continuing forward as a deluded caterpillar, to use the blueprint of metamorphosis? Or are we transforming into a butterfly and change towards becoming a more open, inclusive, and human-centered society? Joining me tonight are Olga Koftun and Olga Schmidt, both volunteers at the Creative Society Project, an international initiative of volunteers spanning 180 countries towards building what they call a creative society. Welcome both Olgas on Smart Sustainability. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Nicolette. It's great to be here today.
Yes, we are excited to be here.
Awesome. And they're both joining us from Michigan, just to make this clear also to our viewers. So this is a really big topic. How can we become a creative society? Let's start with, what is a creative society to you? So not as the project yet, but to you personally. What's a creative society? I'm going to start with Olga S., if you allow me to call you that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. To me, creative society is our future, is the only way that we can move forward. So to me, it is a world in which I, myself, my child, my family, all my loved ones can live a life worthy of a human being, where human life comes first, where we can have the freedom we deserve, where we can, my child can get the education that he deserves, high quality healthcare that my parents deserve, and I believe all people in the world deserve. And that is why creative society to me is the only way towards the future. It is our only chance. And as you said in the beginning, that the change, we can see so much change happening in the world, and it is the only way that we can embrace that change and actually move forward and be called a humanity with a capital H.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you so much, Olga. And then for me, creative society is something that is opposite to destruction. So right now we live in a lot of unsettled times. So we have wars, we have conflicts, we have separation, and not just separation between countries, we also have separation between families and people, and it's just not fair to us to live this way. So for me, creative society is a society where we create something that we all can be proud of. We create a world where human life is #1 priority. And as Olga said, where our kids really have the future, and the future is bright. And in order to do it, we actually have to build that society ourselves.
Now, you mentioned something very interesting, and I'm going to pick up on this. You said it's the opposite of destruction, but actually destruction is part of creation as well. So how does that fit in there? I'm sure you've heard the term creative destruction. So, in order to create something, you have to kind of dismantle things in order to be able to recreate. So where in your thinking does that fit in?
Yes, definitely. So as we can see in the history of mankind, we have destroyed systems and created new systems that still didn't work for us. So as I see right now, creative society is the way of peaceful way of moving into a new format of the society. And it's not really, we don't really need to destroy or fix in what has not been working for us, but what we really need to do is come together under one idea and build something new, something exciting, something that we all can be a part of and feel one as unity, if that makes sense.
So how did you get into this?
For me, I became a volunteer of Electoral International Public Movement about 3.5 years ago. And it really started when my friend said, hey, we have this project and we need more people to help us out. Can you do this? And I said, yes, I can do that. I mean, I have a couple hours here and there. I can volunteer my time. And then I started doing that. And then there was more projects. And I looked at it and I saw a bigger picture. So I didn't see it as a little project here and there. I really saw it as a global project for all of us, and that I can be a part of it, and I can play a little part in something bigger than myself, and really see how we can change this society we live in, the consumeristic society, into a creative society where we get a chance to be ourselves.
Olga, the other Olga, you got something to add?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, Olga and I got introduced as well, and we both started volunteering together. For myself, I used to volunteer in various organizations prior to Electoral International Public Movement, and I always felt like I could do something more. And this movement, what I like about it is that people are united. Regardless of nationality, race, regardless of religion or political affiliation, all people worldwide are united. And I also saw the bigger picture. I saw the projects that Electoral International Public Movement was implementing, large projects that would benefit the whole humanity, such as the Creative Society Project. I got so inspired that I could also help out on my free time, and I could volunteer. And it was so inspiring to see change, to see the idea, to see an actual goal, an actual solution to the problem that we have as a society today, that you just can't be silent.
Yeah, now let's talk a little bit about the Creative Society Project. Give us a little background overview. What exactly is it?
Yeah, so about 9 years ago, volunteers started conducting surveys. They saw that there was a lot of problems in the world, and they saw that the world, needs change. We need to change something in our relationships. But of course, weren't sure, is it that everybody sees that the world needs change, or is it that just in one country people are not happy? So what happened was 9 years ago, volunteers worldwide started taking interviews and social surveys with people all over the world to see what kind of society they want to live in, what kind of problems do they see, how do they see this perfect future, how do they want to live, how do they see healthcare, all those questions, important questions to all of us. And for the past past 9 years, millions of interviews have been conducted by volunteers worldwide from every single country of the world to see how do people want to live. And what was interesting is that you would think that the answers would all be different, but in actuality, all the answers were almost the same. All people from all the countries want to live in peace. They don't want to see wars. They don't want to see conflict. They don't want to see starving kids. They want to make sure that they themselves, their families, and their parents who are elderly are taken care of. They want to live in freedom. They want to enjoy their hobbies. They want to travel, which we don't see a lot of today. And so that is how the Creative Society Project was born. That we saw that people worldwide want to live in this perfect world. But why aren't we living in this perfect future? We see what our end goal is, and that is why the project is here today. That is why we're talking about it today. And we're so excited to know that it is possible and we can all live in this perfect world for all of us.
Now it's 100% volunteer, right?
Yes, correct. So Alatra International Public Movement is a little bit different from most organizations. I would just say all of the organizations out there is because we are run by volunteers. And we don't have any paid positions. We don't have any financing going in and out. We don't really have any donate button that you can click and donate money. All you can do is really donate your time, and you can donate your effort to the cause that's bigger than you, that's bigger than us. It's the cause for creative society and building the ideal world or perfect world we all dreamed of. And that's actually what made me really get into this volunteering, because I really understood that if we don't do this, no one else is going to do it for us. And if we don't take personal responsibility for the projects and for our own life, then who will take that responsibility? And for me, it's very important that it is the format of a creative society on a smaller scale, but it is growing bigger, and soon there will be 8 billion people living in a creative society. So we are very excited to be a part of it.
Now, of course, one could argue that, probably living in a, what you call a perfect society has been probably a dream of mankind since the beginning of mankind in the physical world, so to speak. So ever since we got kicked out of Eden, if you want to say it like this, and we ended up in the more physical and we got more driven towards the physical, everyone kind of dreamed of that. But of course there is a reason why we also have to experience all these things, because if we never experienced hardship, then how would you know that, what the other side looks like? If you've never seen darkness, how would you recognize the light? If you've never seen poverty, how would you know what it's like to be in abundance, and vice versa? So when you think of it today, when you ask for living in a perfect society, aren't we shortcutting the human experience, though, which needs to actually experience opposites?
It's a good question, and we actually get this question, not a lot, but we do get this question asked. And, through history, we do see civilizations that lived peacefully. Even 6,000 years ago, we see the Tripoli civilization, where they don't have any weapons. They lived a peaceful life. They all lived in the same communities. And we see in history, we do see examples of this perfect society. And also from, as I said, from the answers we also received from the interviews, we can see that people want to live like that. And of course, philosophy and philosophers tell us different. They tell us that, we need wars and conflicts, but
I don't think I've heard any philosopher say we need wars and concepts. I think the thing was just that it's part of the human experience.
Well, there are. But I think today that people are so tired of fighting, and I believe that it is possible and we can live in peace.
Yes, and I also think we had enough of the experience right now to know what we really don't want. So I think that our history has taught us that we really don't want to see another war. We really don't want to see another conflict. We really don't want to see another child dying because they don't have enough food on the table. It's just not the human best potential live in this way. And I'm sure once we live in a creative society, we will still have very different experiences, but now we can put our talents and effort into something greater than that you ever imagined. Because if you think about it, in a creative society, all the scientific advances will be made for the betterment of human life. So whatever that might mean to us, we might not even consider, something like, making a food on a 3D printer, but maybe it will become available. And all of a sudden, we are not spending hours and hours in the kitchen, but we are just 3D printing our food. I don't know what it will look like, but I think it's time right now, as a civilization, it is time for evolution of humankind. And it really is time, and we can't live in the past anymore. We have to create the future.
Yeah, and I actually think that's an important point. Now let's talk for a second about the term creative society. Because when you really go into, what human is all about, we create our future all the time. We've been creating our future up to this point as well, just probably not so consciously. So I think most people, and our viewers also, are probably not so much aware that we do create all the time. I mean, this is part of our human heritage, that whatever we do, we cannot do anything else but create. So wouldn't you say then we kind of have lived in a creative society, if you take this approach and say, well, we've created the life we want, so maybe shouldn't we shift it more towards saying to become a more consciously creative society?
Yes, it was a long, the name, the Creative Society, we went back and forth, but yes, you're right. We do create our future all the time. And I guess Creative Society just means that we should consciously, as you said, start creating our future towards the betterment, towards peaceful society. And that's just the name that we've chosen, but yes, you are correct.
And of course, taking responsibility for the impact we're having, which also up to this point, most people, well, in the past, particularly I think in the 20th century, that has been very much a time where resources were just plundered without any second thought in terms of what that would do. So do you think humanity as a total is more ready now, and this is why so many people have a more similar idea of what that future could look like?
Yes, definitely. Society is ready for it, and we are continuing to interview people every single day, and we talk about creative society. We have about 10 to 15 interviews every single day on all different languages, and all we talk about is how do people envision a creative society. So the reason the project is for the whole humanity, not just for the group of people, is because we want to know what your opinion is of the society you would like to live in, and based on that we can all unite, right? So we haven't had anyone say they want to live in a society that continues with wars, conflicts, and all of that. We really hear people want to live in safety. People want to make sure that they have healthcare coverage. People want to make sure that their kids are taken care of. People want to make sure that they can retire in nice conditions. So if you think about those are not rocket science. Those are basic needs. But somehow, somewhere, chasing profits, chasing money, and all the materialistic things, we forgot to be human beings and what it really means. And how do we get back to that? And how do we develop ourselves to the best abilities? That's the question. And Creative Society will provide us the platform to do that, really, because the conditions will be created that will allow for personal growth and development, as well as it will cover all the basic needs and allow for advances beyond our understanding right now.
Now, you mentioned before something about the consumerist society. Explain to us what you meant by that. I don't know which one of you it was, but I think, was it Olga asked, what did you mean by consumerist society?
So the consumerist society means the inhumane format of the society we live in today. So we do not put human life first. We put money or, power or something else over a human being. And that is the consumerist society we live in today. And we need to change that format. We need to put human life first as it should be. And that will eliminate so many things. That will eliminate all the wars, all the conflict, all the violence, of course, science will be, can you imagine, science will be aimed at making sure that everybody has water, everybody has food, because human life is first. So we need to make sure that no kid or no person goes hungry worldwide. This project is worldwide, and today we have the scientists. We have amazing people that can figure this out already. And if we just change the vector from making nuclear bombs that do not benefit me or my family at all, making any kind of weapons, any kind of nuclear bombs, do not benefit my child or myself, or I'm sure a lot of people can say the same thing. And we put that potential of those brilliant people that make them into making something that will benefit us, and into making something that the creative society where human life is first. We can start exploring space, oceans. We can, there is so much more, I believe, that we still do not know that we can do, and move away from the consumerist format.
Yeah. So who would decide what's beneficial for humanity?
So we, the people, will decide what beneficial for humanity is. And right now we know that we have a structure in place in most constitutions. It says we, the people, but in reality, sometimes the decisions are being made behind the closed doors, and you don't know about what's being done till you hear about it in the news. And then you also question on the news, was it the correct information delivered to me, because we don't trust our media anymore either. So we, the people, will make the decisions, and it's going to be very easy, because we do have 8 foundations of a creative society that were formed based on the interviews that we have conducted and still conducting today, and what people have voiced. We nicely put them into 8 foundations of a creative society, and those are the pillars which creative society can live on, because it's all encompassing, and we can really solve any problems by using those 8 foundations.
I want to talk about those 8 foundations actually with you. So I looked them up, I read the 8 foundations, and let's go into that a little bit. So the first one, human life is the highest value. I think you talked about this already in terms of putting the human first. Is there anything you want to add to this one?
I think that is the main one. If we just implement this one foundation, imagine how much will change. I think this is huge, but yes, we did talk about it already, so I don't want to take too much time.
Then let's go to the second one. So the second one is human freedom. What did you mean by that?
So the human freedom just means if you are born on this planet Earth, right? No matter where you are geographically located, you are already a human being, and your life is #1 priority. So that means that human freedom, that everybody has the same resources, everybody have the same conditions. But then based on yourself, you can decide, is that enough for me, or do I want to advance and do something else that can be better for myself or be better for a society? So it just means that everybody gets a fair chance at life, no matter where they are born.
Yes, and you can't.
So when you say everyone gets the same conditions, that sounds all really nice, but in practical things, how would you give everybody the same conditions? Not everybody thrives in the same conditions either.
Well, when I say the same conditions, it's having food on the table, having a roof over your head, and having maybe like a base salary. That's something.
So basic needs. You have a roof over your head. Yeah. You got food. You don't have to worry that you freeze. You don't have to worry that you're going to be kicked out because you can't pay your rent or something like this.
Yeah. Basically, what creative society will allow us to do is to eliminate fear that we all live under right now. The fear of what tomorrow will bring the fear of I'm going to lose my job, the fear of what's going to happen to my child, the fear of, what I'm going to see on TV tomorrow. So that eliminates the fear. And when we no longer live in fear, we actually can live in love. And we can actually live in compassion and understanding towards each other. And we can start this mutual respect as a popular trend in the society as well.
Okay, that one I'm going to challenge, because I don't think it's that easy to just say if we eliminate fear, then you live in love, because love is something that needs to be developed. It is something that needs to be developed in the heart. It's something that you need to work through. So just by saying, oh, let's just cut out all the fears, that doesn't automatically mean that this is when suddenly we all develop this higher love. I think that's a shortcut that I don't think is really like the long way or the path of the soul, because I do think we do need the human development. You need to go through this. And the other thing is, so fear is, we used to say where fear is, love cannot exist yet. So I will agree with you that once the fears are gone, you get to a place where you sort of, develop the heart. But I still think the heart is a process. It needs to be developed, and you need to work through this just as much as you need to work through the fears. So if you can't work through the fears, then how do you grow?
Yeah, so Nicolette, the creative society is for everybody, right? So if we eliminate fear by not, basically providing those basic needs, then whoever wants to grow, love, and develop themselves can at that point, because we're not telling you, okay, now you don't have fear, go develop yourself. Like, we're not telling anyone what to do. Society itself can decide for themselves what they want to do, and you still have this personal choice of what do I choose to do with my life. And if people are really ready to develop into this state of love, right, for each other, love your neighbor state, then we are ready. And if we're not, then it's fine too. It is not that we are forcing anyone to really morph into something, like you said, but it's really is giving opportunities for people and then giving them the choice, and the choice is always with people.
Or could we say that depending on how we develop collectively as humanity, that will get us in a space where we have then worked through most of the fears and automatically get to this higher love? If you follow
I think
the soul,
what also will help, because creative society is a society of honest people. So right now it's not popular to talk about your fears. It's not popular to call it out. So we kind of like have them inside of us bundled up. But then we really have those conditions where we openly and honestly talk to each other and say, you know what, I really have a fear of this and this. And then someone else can say, oh, I am the same way. Let's work through that. Let's figure this out. And this will collectively help us all as well, because now we can be open and honest with each other, because we have nothing that holds us back.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, just talking about this.
Yeah.
And we've seen that also. We've seen that, on the show. We've seen that with people. Is once we start talking about this, most people operate in the same, window of fears, let's put it this way, of what's out there. And even if you have very abundant people, as I used to keep saying, it's just a question of dimensions, the zeros at the end, but the problems and the fears and what you worry about, they usually are the same, just in different sizes, depending on where it is. So I think that's a really good point. And the more people talk about this, the more they realize that that's the case. So just because someone is, let's say, a multimillionaire, for example, doesn't mean that person doesn't have the same fear. It's just, they worry also about the same thing, just with more zeros on it, or vice versa. So it's really interesting. So I think, and the more we talk about this, the more these things come to light, where we say, wait a minute, we do sit all in the same boat. Right? Yes. So let's talk about what's the next. Safety. Let's talk. Well, we talked a little bit about safety, about the basic needs. Is there anything else you want to add to the safety aspect?
Yes, you know what, in the safety aspect also, we talked about the basic needs that, of course, every human will be provided the basic needs. And also there is at the end a very, very important thing. I'm going to read it just so. It says, the security of human and society from any kind of threats is ensured by the unified global service that deals with emergency situations. And this is actually very unique and important. If there's any kind of situation, climatic situation, if there is anything going on worldwide, there is a unified service that is trained, that can go and help the people in need in a certain state of emergency.
You think that's feasible?
Absolutely.
As a global force, how would we make sure that the global force then isn't used to implement something that's not so good for humanity? For example, when some people have a different set of opinion or things like that, how do we make sure that it doesn't tip?
Yeah, so when it comes to different sets of opinions, we all have them. So it's okay to have opinions, and we're not uniting over opinions. We're really uniting under the 8 foundations of a creative society, and we use them as pillars to every decision that we make in the society. So we will still have our opinions. That is not, the case, but all the opinions will be counted for, all the opinions will be, adjusted for. But really, unified force is there to ensure that if something happens in one end of our planet Earth, then we can concentrate and help that area and maybe move people out or relocate people to another place, so we don't lose human lives. So once the science can really predict when the next earthquake is, or they can predict that tsunami is coming, we can act very quickly this way if we have a global force ready to help us, and we can have life saved, as easy as that. It's basically, I don't think anyone will say, you know what, I really don't want to save another life somewhere else. I think we are really at the point where we really do take care of each other, and we want this. And there's so many people that we talk to daily again, and they all say, we really want to have this mutual respect and understanding. And how do we get there? We get there by taking actions. We get there for asking those type of questions. We get there for, understanding where we're going.
So empathy plays a big role with that, obviously, because if we're not empathetic, then it gets harder to explain why we would, we would send out a force for that. Now, let's move on to the next one, creative ideology.
I like that one. And the reason I like this one is because I have kids. So I have 2 kids, and right now I personally, as a mother, make a conscious decision of not letting them watch TV, because I never know what type of content is coming out, and it's now becoming more violent. Violence is glorified, for example, and for me it's not okay for little kids to be exposed to it, because I will know that they'll become numb to it, and they become, it will become part of okay life, and I'm not okay with violence. I'm not okay with hate. I'm not okay with glorifying, drama and relationships like that. So creative ideology will allow us to show our best human qualities, and really the entertainment can become a teaching tool as well, right? So we can learn new skills, we can do all of that. So it's just switching the format from this negativity that we see the second we turn on the TV, the news and all of it, into the positive news, and into the news that are truthful, and the news that really represents us truly, so we can make those decisions on a daily basis that affect our lives in a positive way.
Okay, two things we need to talk about. So to make news truthful, that's a tough one, because whoever does make news, there's always bias, because the person who says something always filters. That's something you can't take out. And I think it's very dangerous to say we have news that we say those are truth and those are not, because that's kind of like a ministry of truth. And I think it's still up to every person to self-think, so to speak, and see what's actually true to yourself, and also to you at home, what's true to you in your own reality and your own world in what you see. The other one I want to talk about a little bit is ideology. Now, when you say ideology, so to me there's always a dogma involved, and dogmas usually means when a thought becomes stagnant, then it becomes an ideology, and at some point it tips into something that then becomes just as destructive. So something needs to be moving, and an ideology usually does not. So how will we navigate that?
What do you think, Olga? I don't know. The ideology, and the reason I ask that, because we don't know, we don't have all the answers. We are just 2 volunteers out of millions of volunteers that are doing it. So to say we have all the answers is not to be honest, right? So this is a great question, and we will research this out and we will come back to you. But again, those foundations were put together through all the answers, and they are translated to many, many languages, and sometimes, in translation, of course, things happen. But we'll look into it and we'll see what that really means to have this ideology. But personally, for me, I would like to see moral values being glorified instead of violence, or instead of putting someone down, or having those negative shows that we have on TV that are just, people killing each other, the drugs, the sex trafficking. We don't need none of that. Like, really, it can go away, and that will allow us to become the creative society.
I would agree with you, but it's still up to the people. If you don't want to watch it, you can just switch it off.
Yes, I agree, of course, and that's why I'm saying that right now in a consumeristic society, me as a parent, I make a decision to switch it off and not to pay my attention to it, because the only 2 resources we have is time and attention. So if we use those in a correct way, then we can really build a creative society very fast, maybe 10 or less years.
What else was there? Development of personality. Well, I think we talked a little bit about that. So development of personality is that everyone can kind of work in an environment where you can bring in your talents and things like that. Is there something else you want to point out in this one?
Yes, that education should be free and equally available to all as well.
Okay.
Because this way we level out the field plane, and we really have access to the same education around the globe, and then that gives us this base that we can jump off from.
Now in one more of these, and I'm not sure if this was in the creative ideology or in a later one, I just took some notes, and there was somewhere in we prohibit something. Was that what you meant with the media and so on? So that's something I want to call out, because when you prohibit, I understand that the creative society has the freedom of everyone as the center, right? That's the idea. That's how I understood it, right? So then how does prohibiting something fit in there? So if you prohibit something, then people are not free. How does this go hand in hand?
Let's read it. So it's in the creative ideology. It's at the end. It says prohibition of propaganda, violence, condemnation, and denunciation of any form of division, aggression, and anti-humane manifestations.
But it says it's prohibited, so that's the same to me as censorship, is it not?
I just honestly, I don't know. I guess this is, again, this is the will and wants of the people. Maybe for some people it's okay to see violence. Again, people, once this is ready and once we're ready to take this next step, people can make their decisions. But for example, in my opinion, I'm okay with prohibiting violence, prohibiting manifestation of anti-human qualities. To me, it's perfectly fine. Again, these could, if some people think that it's not just and they want to see violence and anti-human qualities on TV, then
I don't think it's so much, I think we all agree on the violence and stuff like this. I think it's just more in terms of what do you allow in a certain area and what do you forbid in a certain area, and people have different perceptions and different viewpoints, of which is which. And to me, it's just, I'm just, as I read it, I was just thinking the prohibiting and the freedom, that's language to me that's kind of counterproductive. So maybe that's something you want to look into it just as a thing, or at least find out how this works together. What else do we have? And a couple of other things. Now, all of these 8 foundations are on your webpage, right?
Yes.
Okay, so justice and equality, that was the next one. And I mean, justice and equality, that's what we're going through in the United States right now as well. I mean, you know, equality is a big thing. Equity is a huge point. What exactly did you, how do you understand the justice and equality in that component?
Yeah, so the way we word it here is that all the natural resources really don't belong to a particular country or particular people or particular business. All human resources or natural resources are fairly distributed amongst all of us. And that will also help with, you know, putting food on the table and a roof over heads as well. So it's just another way of making sure that everybody is taken care of.
So, and there were some, like indigenous populations, for example, they had a very different property concept because they don't own property, but they see it more as everyone is a steward over the land. Because, I mean, when we're realistically about this, none of us created the earth. It's all a gift. None of us created water. It's all a gift. So to say some people own that and others do not, and they should pay for it, and let some companies siphon off the water and bottle it and sell it to others, I think that is definitely something that needs to be looked at, because this is not, I think, how nature had intended for humans to live. So I would, this one I think is pretty straightforward. Now, there was one other thing in that I picked out. Guaranteed employment and pay should be the same. And society, okay, so guaranteed employment and pay for the same positions should be the same around the globe. Okay, I think, yeah?
Absolutely. So, for example, if you're a doctor or if you're a TV host in America, then you should be freely able to move, for example, to Africa and do the same exact, have a same exact position and get paid exactly the same. And that is totally just. And this way we can eliminate this inequality. We'll have exactly the same pay for and should I mention high quality, high paying positions. So all people should have high income so that they can support themselves, support their family, and live a good life. And Creative Society will also allow for a 4-day work week with 4 hours a day. And there have been studies showing that actually 4 hours a day is enough to get your work done. Of course, not in all positions, but in some.
So I've seen actually the studies about the 4 days, but it was more than 4 hours a day. I will say that to kind of make up for that. Now, I do have a question though, because to me that's a little contradictory. If we say everybody should get the same payment for the same role, see, I think when we argue and say everyone is unique and has unique talents and has a unique purpose in life, then you can't really compare those. So how can you then say the roles are all the same and everybody should make the same? I don't think that's correct.
Yeah, when we say like a role of a doctor, if you are a food doctor in United States and you're a food doctor in Africa or India, you should make the same amount of money. The conditions should be the same for you. But now if you decided to specialize now in not just food, as a food doctor, but as a head doctor or arm doctor, then you can get above that pay, definitely, because you just advance yourself to help other people and to help with number one priority, which is human life.
So position of the same title would get paid the same.
Or, of course, we take a completely different approach and think about it, do we actually need a monetary system? Now, that's a whole other question because, we may not need one.
Yes, that's a whole other question. Again, the people would decide that later on, right, if that is needed.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how do you see the shift happen? So where we're now, what's going on, going forward, how do you see this would be even remotely feasible, or how could it happen?
Yes, it's a good question. So there are always stages. So right now we're in a very, very important stage, and this stage could not be skipped. It's very important and it's crucial, and we cannot take it for granted. It's the informational stage. First, people need to know about this project, that it exists, that it's out there, and they need to understand what it is, how it works. Of course, everybody needs to study it. And once all people globally, or at least 50% of the people in each country know about it, they can go, once you find out about it, you can go on the website, you can click the Join Us button. And this way, when there's over 50%,
50 like in 50?
50% in a certain country, then that country can move to the next stage, which is the electoral platform stage. So right now we're in the informational stage. If people don't know about it, then we cannot unite into this one idea, we cannot build it. So that is where we are today, and that is the first step.
Mm-hmm. What would that next stage, you started with an electoral system, what would that look like? So let's say there is a country with 50%, what would be the next stage?
Yes, so then the next stage, once there's over 50%, then the electorate can, of course, have their own platform where they register with their, unique passwords. And they can pick a person whom they feel is a good representative, who also supports the 8 foundations of the Creative Society. And then they would, for example, vote for this person. And this person guarantees that the laws that he will implement are, first of all, the electoral platform needs to be implemented as the law. What does it mean? It means that the people, all of us, have the right to, if we do not like the person we selected, we can just say, you know what, you're not working for us. We want a better representative. And again, this person does not have all the power. He's just responsible for us, the people. And then the second law would be the implementation of the 8 foundations into the Constitution. And that will also allow the people to make the choices. We, the people, can then have a voting system, for example, on our iPads, once we move into it. And again, all the people that are in those fields, the scientists can, see how the science will work, the doctors will discuss this, all those things will come in place later. But for now, those are the steps.
Mm-hmm. So when I listen to all of this, it sounds, and I'm sure some viewers would probably say that too, they would say, well, that sounds pretty utopic. So it sounds very ideological and very imaginative, but very ideological. Where in all of this, so if you have science and specialists work in all of the different fields, how would you take a full systems perspective, an ecosystem perspective on all of those different elements? Because all those 8 pillars, if you want to call them, they're all totally interconnected. So in other words, when you move one piece here, all other pieces shift as well. So how would we take a full systems perspective in that?
Well, we would unite under one idea, right? So we're not uniting under anyone's pocket or anyone, ability to make more profit than another person. We're really uniting under those 8 foundations or 8 pillars. And then we make every decision based on those 8 foundations. And we say, now our healthcare really need to be adjusted in order to work within the framework of the Creative Society. And then we go and say, well, our military, do we even need a military now? Now we need to adjust for, those extreme situations that's going to happen around the globe. And we no longer need to fight each other. So it is an evolution. It is going to take a lot of conversation. It is going to take a lot of communication. But the good news is it was not possible even like 5 years years ago, it was not possible. But right now, we have the technology, not just to communicate with each other openly and honestly, but also communicate with the whole world. And we have been successfully doing it for a long time now.
Do you know, by any chance, how many volunteers, roughly, just like an estimate, how many volunteers are working on the project right now?
I know we have millions. I don't know how many millions.
We do not take count. We don't have a sign-up form. So what a volunteer really means, it's someone who takes personal responsibility and understands the project and its importance to our civilization. And it is really the only way out of this dead-end consumeristic world we live in right now, and that we just take a lot of personal responsibility and we drive the project forward. So some of the volunteers are very active participants and you see them a lot more than others, but we also have many participants that write a comment, share it with their friends, talk to people. Even knowing about Creative Society, it kind of gives you this responsibility of, I know about it, but do my friends know about it? And let's have a discussion. I still can't figure out how's this gonna work and how's that gonna work. Let's all get together and figure this out. And we can't be really jumping into the solution stage, because no matter what solution we will come up with in a consumeristic society, the conditions that created that problem will remain the same. So that problem will always come back. When we talk about Creative Society, is once the problem is fixed, it's not coming back, because the conditions are no longer there to support that problem.
But there's likely going to be other problems. I think it would be unrealistic to think we're not going to have any other problems. It's just the way things are. I mean, everything is movement, so we're going to have to be, it has to be in a dynamic state. That's what I'm getting at. So there's some things that are static, but most of things have to be dynamic because everything is constant movement.
Yes, but at least we will have the specialists united on the one platform that can solve it so much faster.
Yes, working together, from different countries, different languages. And, we are really communicating every single day to the people with different, different walks of life, different backgrounds, everything.
I will say, I am totally impressed and amazed at how fast you guys are communicating back and forth. And to me, for thinking that this is a volunteer organization, it's very, very impressive. I'm going to say that it's more responsive than a lot of professional organizations are dealing with this. So it's very, very impressive the way this all works and kind of plays out. Seriously.
Yes. And I think that is because we're not worried about profits or money. We're actually doing this because this is something that we love to do. This is what we're here to do. We're volunteering because we are so passionate about the future. We're so passionate about building something better that why not? This is what drives us forward. And that is why all the volunteers, I would say most of us are so excited to talk about it. And we're so just happy to share this information with everybody that is why we're so responsive.
Yes. And once you talk about it every single day, you kind of live in a Creative Society and you really see the benefits of it just by participating as a volunteer.
Well, because I guess you have, it keeps the ball of the ideas rolling. It keeps your imagination focused on the longer term goals so you not get sidetracked so much. But just for our viewers also to clarify, both of you have a day-to-day job, right?
Yes.
So this is all side work, like on the side, what you do.
Yes, so I work in the medical field. I work full time. I'm also a mother and a wife. And of course, I have other responsibilities, housework and things like that. But yet, once you see the situation our world is today, once you see that there is no future even for ourselves and our kids, we know that we need to take that responsibility. We need to build something better. And we see today climatic problems. We see today geopolitical, economic problems. And that is honestly what is driving myself forward, that is keeping me going, is the volunteering. And we find time here and there in the afternoons, sometimes early mornings. I'll get up early and get some work done for this as well. Of course, it's not work. It's actually something that is fun and, enjoyable. But yes, of course, we all work.
Yeah, and when we work towards the same goal, it's so easy to do it. And I run my own business. I do graphic design, web design, and also am able to schedule, hours where I volunteer or answer a quick email. So we are respectful to everybody. And we want to make sure that the type of project that we are running, the Creative Society project, is a perfect example of a creative society, because we work on our best human qualities by communicating with each other. I have personally learned so many skills. Like, I wouldn't even be sitting here today, not shaking, nothing, because all of a sudden I'm taking interviews with people and I understand that I can speak freely and openly. There's nothing that's holding me back, because the passion is so big that all I have to do is open my mouth, and then there it goes, Creative Society.
Yeah, we got about 3 minutes left, so I want to go very quickly into an upcoming event. I think you do have a big conference coming up. You want to give us just like a brief overview of what it's about?
Yes. On March 20th, we have a historic global conference that's coming up. It's called Creative Society, What the Prophets Dreamed of. And this conference will be translated simultaneously to over 35 languages. It is all done and ran by volunteers. And at this conference, it's going to be streamed on thousands and thousands of platforms worldwide. And at this conference, we will talk about very important topics such as, what did the prophets through centuries talk about? What kind of society did they envision for us? And what kind of a world do we live in today? We will talk about religions as an organization and the responsibility on us, the people, and of course the priests and the imams and such. We will talk about, of course, the Creative Society of the new format, and there's going to be a lot more other things that we will discuss as well. If we have interviews with specialists and religious leaders from different organizations that are also going to be participating as well in the conference. And we're so excited. It doesn't matter if you're a religious person, if you're a believer, if you're an atheist. This conference is for all people worldwide, and this is going to be a huge event. So yes, of course, we welcome you, Nicolette, as well, to watch as well. Thank you.
And just to verify, it is accessible online, right?
Yes, it will be accessible on the electrounites.com website. You can watch it on that.
And it's open to everyone.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it. We are outside of politics and religion, but we are really studying every aspect of our life and see how we can unite people on one platform under one idea of building a creative society.
There's so much more to talk about. We're almost out of time, so I'm going to give both of you a last word. What would you like our viewers to take along, from this discussion tonight? But it's got to be brief.
Yes, we're so happy to be here today. First of all, thank you so much. And to our viewers, I would like to say, take personal responsibility. Look at what the world is coming to and see that with our attention, we can all unite under one goal and build something beautiful for ourselves and our kids.
Yes, and also please research the project. Please reach out to any of us, any volunteers, and really see for yourself if you want to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, both Olgas. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.